Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about a phenomenon that I am seeing that is on the rise via these internet streets. Now, I am definitely nobody's cultural pop creator. It's not really giving that. I typically make social analytical observances about what is popping, what's going on within our society. And so today we're going to be talking about these like women empowerment, women movement cults that were created by mean girls who are really just unaware and are using these platforms and these outlets to kind of just get back at all the women who eventually bullied them, or women who they felt like they couldn't compete with, or women who they felt like they just didn't really level up with, or couldn't really fit in the group. And let me just explain, because that was a terrible intro. So I've noticed, and especially specifically on TikTok, since I've been back on TikTok, I just recently downloaded TikTok, but I'm back on TikTok and I'm just taking a look at these women creators, and they're on YouTube as well, but it's a lot of women who create content and who create these type of online communities, all in the name of empowering women and helping women, right? Under the guise of helping women become wives or more respectable, or solving some of the problems, as if creating content and giving your opinions about your very limited experience could possibly solve the issues that women face on a very large societal and global scale. It's slightly crazy, but I also know that like we're not really that conscious, and we're not really creating this content to, save the world. So anyway, I noticed there is something about women who maybe growing up, they didn't fit a certain type of physique. They didn't fit a certain type of aesthetic. Maybe they didn't fit a certain type of complexion. And these women get married and they start to create content in the name, under the guise of like, the A-list of Proverbs 31 or femininity or whatever the case may be. And these are mostly Black women that I'm seeing. But they're creating this content and they're coming online and they're trying to do it under the guise of helping women, like I said. But it's got a very mean spirit towards it. It's a very mean tone behind it. It's very condemning. Like, I know that there are different approaches and everybody's got their own personality, but I really think there is something said about women who come online and who literally humiliate, degrade, condemn, and demean women. Right? It's like these women's content has absolutely no compassion, no real understanding. And it's very evident that these women are lacking self-awareness. But it's like, if you don't really know yourself, if you're not in tune with yourself, how can you be online trying to guide anybody else? Okay? How can you be online trying to guide anybody else? And how can you be somebody who is trying to like help others? You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like when you're not in tune with yourself, like you're doing all this, but there's no level of awareness. And I say that because these women, you leave their content how you would leave the content of men who come online to say that they're helping women, and all they do is talk about all your past decisions and the past, like, you know what I mean? It's like they just leave you feeling humiliated and ashamed. And that's the same type of spirit I get behind a lot of these mean girls online who create this content and create these communities, all in the name of helping women, Black women specifically, become more feminine. Now, we're going to look at this from a lot of different perspectives, so just bear with me as I roll through this video. The first thing is that with the integration of TikTok, with the integration of very evidential white wealth, white pay gap, and Black racial pay gap and things like that, right? The wealth gap, in summary, you can see that very evidently online. And I talked about this in a previous video. Like, you can kind of just see it from white content creators, whether it is fake or not, but it's not fake for the most part, right? We know white people typically make a lot more than Black people, and that is due for a lot of different reasons, but we'll leave that there. So what I've discovered is that Black people's inferiority complex has never been more evident like it is now, right? A lot of people just don't know who they are. A lot of Black people are just running around very much confused about why things are the way they are, and they start to succumb to certain type of beliefs that they need to be more European-like, right? And that's why you have a lot of these Black women who come online and pretty much just bully other Black women who don't fall in line with that category, right? So let me talk about why I think these women do this. And this is the first piece, which is their whole personal insecurity. So any woman that I feel like feels the need to be mean to women, right? Who feels the need to be nasty, that nice, nasty kind of like towards women and girls, all in the name of like helping them. I'm always going to be giving you side eye because I will never understand how you will sit and coddle a boy or a man. You can find that sense of compassion, right? But you can't find that for young girls. You'll notice under these women's comments, a lot of the people that support their content are men, and it's very evident these are women who are seeking validation from men, right? And this shows in how they interact with girls and versus how they interact with men or boys, right? And we know that women can be catty, we know all those different things, but I just don't see how you can have a level of disdain for women or a level of fear for women that makes you be so aggressive towards women. Like, I will never understand that. And I know this video, I'm taking my time getting my thoughts out with this one because it's been a minute since I've made a video, and it's also just a lot of things I want to make sure I really hit on in this one. So bear with me. So back to what I was saying. These women, and this is not just me personally judging them. This is society, and we know what society says. I'm not somebody who's blind to colorism, pretty privilege, and European centric like features. I'm not blind to that. Like, I'm very much aware of that. Like, I understand it completely. On top of educational and your environmental factors playing a role, and whether or not you were privileged. Like, I'm aware to all of that. Like, I'm not sitting here making this video. That's why I'm saying what I'm saying about what I'm about to say. So these are women who either didn't have a certain type of physique, they didn't have a certain type of complexion, they didn't have a certain type of hair texture, hair type, hair length, whatever the case may be. Maybe they didn't have style growing up. Maybe they were the black women who, I made a podcast episode about this is a long time ago, but I was talking about black nerds and what it is to be like a black nerd and how you really grow up isolated. Because, to be black is typically to be either popular or to be smart, but we're not going into that rabbit hole because that's Dr. Conjufu's work. And I'm also a little nervous too because I don't want my camera to run out of storage. So check that out. But these are women who fall into those other categories, right? They're not really the it girl. They're not really the girl who, guys maybe crushed on or whatever the case may be, right? So these women go and they create these communities and they perpetuate really harmful stereotypes about pretty women or black women who may like a certain type of aesthetic that just so happens to be in, right? Or black women who are just black women minding their business and they're just being black. And because these women felt like they never really could fit into that and they never really met the standard of desirability that is to be a black woman, they go on and they create this content. And because now they're married and that is their key or their proxy to European culture, then they start to weaponize it against other women. And I know that was a mouthful, so let me just dial it back because I had to come on here and share this with you guys, and I hope this video doesn't stop. But I had to come and share this with you guys because I'm noticing there is really a lot of rhetoric and a lot of talk around being married. Like, a lot of women today have made being married like this prize, and it's only what I'm seeing with a lot of black women content creators. And not only does this come with the level of disdain and that I feel like these women are creating their communities that I just mentioned, but it also kind of comes with this thing of like it's like these women feel like because they are married, like they're better than you. They completely negate their single experiences. They completely negate the men that they may have dated who were airheads or whatever the case may be, considerable factors that had nothing to do with them and their relationships not working out. And they kind of just put their marriages and their relationships in this very prized place, but it's never really coming from a place of reality, right? You have older women who will come online and they will paint this picture like, oh my God, their marriage is so great. Or, they'll paint the picture like they're so happily married, and they might be, but they never really talk about the realities that is the complications that come with the marital construct. They'll never talk about that, right? They'll never share those things. And it's not any of our business. But my thing is this: if you're going to be somebody who kind of comes online and you want to be in that space like a pseudo life coach, then you should be somebody who's willing to be transparent. But that's the thing about the internet today. And this is why I've had lately, I can't with the internet today, because you have a lot of people who haven't lived life, right? And you have a lot of young people, old people who never lived life. Maybe they married young, whatever the case may be. And they have very limited views, and they have very little limited understanding about the complexities and the complexities and the complications that is life, right? And that in turn breeds a lack of empathy. And so that's what I'm really seeing today. And this is something I'm just kind of coming on, not really like a warning, but just more so shining light on this reality. Like, I've noticed it's a lot of women content creators who are creating content because they're married, and their marriage is the sole thing of their content, and they're coming out and they're shaming other women for not being married, and they're talking about all the reasons why women are not being married, you know, instead of actually realizing like there's a lot of different factors why a lot of women may not be married, you know what I mean? And I just don't know when we got to this place in our lives where to live life means to live it in a very linear way. I think it's always kind of been that way, but I don't know. I just never really understood like how you can use as somebody, you know, take your life choice, and you're married and you're doing your thing. That was a choice you decided, and then you go out and try to weaponize that against other people. You know, it's because marriage right now, which we know, like, you're seeing a lot of white content creators coming out talking about their marriages, and not talking about their marriages, but creating a lot of content centering around marriage and family. We're seeing what's happening with the Republican Party, et cetera, right? Generally. But I think what it is like marriage is this hot commodity, but it's always been something that has been very void within the Black community. It's always been something that is very complex and sometimes inaccessible to Black people. There's a lot of complications in regards to our relationships. And so I just think that a lot of times, you know, people who create content around marriage and, you know, selling a fantasy, and I think that's another reason too why it's like, I sometimes hate the internet, because I'm like, none of this stuff is real. Like, I can't with people who get online and just make it seem like these very complex, you know, things are so easy, and it's just so happy, and it's, you know what I mean, all these different things, and it's not like that, you know. And it doesn't mean that you're miserable. I just think that, you know, we'll talk about it later, but you know, happiness is a bit of a adolescent thing. You know, life is complex. You know, you can have joy, you can have gratitude, you can be grounded, you can be stronger than before, but you know, life is just life. Like, it's not, you know, I don't know. I just think that it's like very youth-like to think that you're going to live your life always on a high. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, right? That's America's obsession with adolescence, and that's why we can never really grow and matriculate into adulthood, because we're always in this space where we're constantly wanting to live on a high, right? And that's why we have addictions, and we have the things that we're sold that we constantly chase to get that high. But that's just not life. You know, you get older, and it's like you learn not to get too low and not to get too high, because it's best to just live life in the middle, you know. But that, you know, for a lot of people, that's a little too grounding. That's not really what people want to hear, you know, and it's okay. I used to be somebody who was very like hyper, you know, not even hyper, but just, you know, very, very high vibe. And I would say that I'm still a very positive person, but I just think you just realize that life is a lot more complex than just chasing this continuum of like happiness. So anyway, I don't want to get off topic, but I just want to kind of share that for women, to let you guys know that like those type of women are out there, and they're out there creating content, because in reality, no woman would actually gravitate towards their program. No woman would show up to their seminar. No woman wants to really be in close proximity with these women, because they don't actually embody a feminine essence. These women are really mean. They're very rigid. They're very hard pressed. You know what I mean? They have a lot of insecurities. They have a lot of issues, you know, so that's why they come online under the guise of like being a girl's girl or whatever the case may be, to create this type of content and build this community, just to kind of pretty much beat up on all the women that may have, you know, they felt like they may not have got it, you know, because I will never really understand it. It's like, I think it's just a different generation. And I can say this maybe now that I'm a little bit older, but I feel like this is a generation where, you know, a certain type of aesthetic, a certain, you know, it's different. And when I look back at my life, I was in that young age too, of like wigs, weaves, like, you know what I mean? Lashes weren't a thing when I was coming up, but like, you know, lashes and so forth. So I just don't get, but I don't see how women today feel the need to bash women for being women and being creative, or, you know, just whatever. And it's like, and you're shaming them because they don't have a man, or you're shaming them because you think that they can't get him. And like, what? You know, I don't get it. I will never understand it. And it's really a shame that for a lot of women, that is their sole marker. And it's not to say that having a family and being married, like, I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful for my marriage. I'm grateful for, everything I got going on. But it's just like, I just don't see how you could ever weaponize that against people. And I'm going to say, I think it comes from a space of like pride. You find yourself in a space where this thing is something that everybody's desiring and you got it, right? Everybody, you got it. And so what happens is you just kind of get high on the horse. You get high on the horse, you start to feel like you got all the answers, you start to feel like you can really, and so I think that's where a lot of women kind of get caught up in that. But truly, if you're happy and you're sound with yourself, like, you would never feel the need to get online and bash other women, all in the name of helping women become more of your version of womanhood, which is your very peculiar version. Like, that may not be, and the thing about femininity today is like, it really is in alignment with Europeanism, and it always has been, right? Black women have always had their own definitions and aesthetics of femininity. So I just think that Black people today are really struggling with a lot of inferiority complexes, and it doesn't get better, because the thing about reading and even following content creators or following my page or whatever the case may be, is like, it's something about you reading the book, right? It's something about you actually doing the readings. It's something about you actually learning, and so forth. And that's the thing. Like, a lot of people aren't doing that. Like, people come to other people's pages and read. I've had people, I've watched video essays and things like that, and they've referenced a book, and I go read that book, and I'm like, wow, this person ain't mentioned none of this and this, you know what I mean? So it's like, people take different things from different things, So it's like, you have to do your own reading and your own research. But I don't want to veer too far left. I think I'm going to end the video here, but I just wanted to come on here and say that I definitely see those women, and I think it's very cruel, and I think it's very lame. And I just don't think it's okay. I just feel like I just will never understand women like that, and for a lot of women today, Black women who create those femininity pages, it's just to fit into the European aesthetic. It's all about performance, right? It has nothing to do with who they really are at their core. It has nothing to do with really embodying that essence, right? A lot of these women hide behind, European aesthetics and things like that, but it's like, you're always going to be Black, and regardless of what that is for you and how you define it, like, you're not getting out of that, so you being married doesn't make you closer to whiteness, but I think for a lot of people it does, and it gives them this social acceptance and this social capital that just is enough to cash in. So I don't know. I just wanted to go on here and say that. I hope you guys got something from this video. I hope you feel seen. Like, I've had my videos for sure. I'm definitely not going to sit up here and say, and I just told you it was pride. You know what I mean? You can have a good day, you can have a good week, have a good year in your marriage, and then you start to feel like you can, come out but it's like, once you really, like I said, you mature, you live life in the middle, you ground yourself, you understand life. It's not just marriage, but life has ups and downs, then you'll be humble. So that's the thing about the internet today, and that's the thing about people who live very narrow lives, right? I said people who may have married young, and I'm not shaming them, but I'm just saying, like, sometimes we have to humble ourselves and recognize how little we know, you know what I mean? And it's just something that's really hard to do when you're young and you're on the internet, and you can have an opinion about this person's life and see this on this blog and comment on that, you know what I mean? Versus when it's in your proxy, your reality is like, if everything that I felt like I knew was because I was seeing it from my aunties and from, you know what I mean, the women. I'm like, oh, okay, you know what I mean? But it's like, a lot of people didn't have that. So, you're young and you're online and you just have all these opinions, but it's like, you haven't really lived life to really know, and the thing about like trying to make your marriage this thing and priding yourself on it is like, you never really can control what another person is doing. Because just like how you're on the internet and you're seeing things, somebody else may be seeing things on the internet, you know what I mean? And they may be having, so it's just like, I don't know. I just don't know why anybody would build an identity around that. And I know exactly why, because it goes back to the inferiority complexes that I think a lot of Black people that are rising to the surface for a lot of Black people as we integrate with white people on the internet. We start to notice the wealth gap. We start to notice all these different things. There's knowledge, there's get rich quick, there's, real estate, all these different things that we feel like we want to partake in, but we don't really know why we've not partaken in them, and we don't really, you know what I mean? There's just a lot of missing holes. So a lot of people are just really confused in who they are and who they want to be, and they feel like they got to be something different. And for the vast majority of Black people, Black men, Black women included, they feel like they have to leave behind their people, that their people are wrong, that if they will just debase, degrade, demean, and denounce these people, then they can get in with these other people. And it's a lack of identity, because obviously it's not true. So that's the end of the video. I hope you guys got something from this. I really wish there's I'm not gonna make any promises. I think I'm gonna cut. Hope you guys got something from this. And I definitely would say, like, if you find yourself in that space, just detach. You know what I mean? I think if I can leave women with anything at the end of this video, is know yourself and what you want for your life, right? Seriously, because that's the thing, right? We're moving to a place now with the internet and everything, and capitalism. Everybody wants to kind of have some type of image of perfection, so that they can be, commercialized or whatever. But it's like, know yourself, know what you want for your life, because at the end of the day, like, you're the only person who's going to be living it, and it's like, if you don't know what you want for your life, then you should take some time, because if not, somebody's going to give you an idea. Somebody's going to give you a vision of what that should look like, and that may not be what you really want. So that's all I got to say.